All right, welcome back to the Naval News segment. Today we have for you a great story from the WarZone. Joseph Therafthik writes, Congress has already allocated tens of millions of dollars for USS Connecticut repairs. Congress has approved $50 million in total to help fix USS Connecticut's, but repair bill could grow significantly larger. This is just a down payment on what's going to cost to fix this thing. Let's get right to the piece here. The first clues as to how much it might cost the U.S. Navy to repair damaged Seaboard class USS Connecticut can be found tucked away in the latest version of the annual defense policy bill for 2022. The legislation approves $10 million to help pay for a new bow sonar dome. So they are going to create a new one. They're not going to use the one that they had up there in Bremerton that had been up there as a spare for a long time. And I suppose still there, but they're going to build a new one. Or they're going to pay someone $10 million to put the old one on. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the deal. Anyway, or another $40 million for emergent repairs, which makes sense. As they do a more thorough investigation in a dry dock, they're probably going to find things wrong that they don't know about yet due to the shock damage of it running into the ground. So Greg Cooper says, writing for Forbes, so credit to Forbes magazine, was first to notice these details about the funding of the Connecticut's repairs. The Senate passed this bill, formerly known as National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for fiscal year 2022, earlier this month. And it's now waiting President Joe Biden's to either sign it into law or veto it. Both houses of Congress have been picking over the pieces of legislation for months, more than enough time to add money to fixing the Connecticut, which lost its sonar dome and sustained other damage as a result of collision with an underwater seamount in the South China Sea in October. And here they have the line items for you. Line item 11, line item 110, maintenance and sonar dome replacement cost right there. After the accident, the submarine had limped to Guam, where it spent about 2 months undergoing evaluation, and damage to the full extent still remains unknown, as well as interim repairs and unspecified testing. The boat finally arrived in Washington State this weekend after an arduous journey across the Pacific. It first went to San Diego, stayed in San Diego for a couple days, one probably to rest the crew. I imagine they didn't get a whole lot of sleep, transiting on the surface across the Pacific. Even in calm seas, that's a rough ride. And if it was rough seas, it was nightmarish, let me tell you. So they restock, resupply, and rest in San Diego for a couple days. And then they get up to Washington State, Bremerton, where they're at now, time of this recording. Here's a couple photos from you. If I click this, I think that opens up Twitter. Oh, no, good. We can watch it right here. No, let's just pause it right here. I wish I could get rid of the play button, but I can't. You can clearly see the bow. See how flat this is? That's because the sonar dome is physically gone. And so this is the forward bulkhead of main ballast tank 1. Yeah. So you got a main ballast tank there and right behind it and right behind it. And then finally you got the people tank behind that. And so that's the big reason why this was a rough ride, is it had to bulldoze its way through the water from from Guam to San Diego to Bremerton. And there's a great video of this. We showed this video on the podcast. If you guys watch the podcast, you'll see the whole thing. It's pretty incredible. This is not the USS Connecticut. I wish they would stop using this picture, because this confuses a lot of people because they don't understand the difference, because they don't read the article. They just look at pictures. But this is USS San Francisco, and this is the damage it incurred whenever it just grazed a seamount. Apparently, the USS Connecticut hit it nose on. Yeah, pretty bad. Let's read back to the piece. The Navy decided on this course of action because the San Francisco had recently had its nuclear reactor refueled, and Honolulu was due to undergo a similar overhaul, which is a costly and complex process. The service estimated that it would have cost $170 million in 2006 and around $234 million in today's money to refuel the Honolulu. They're talking about, this specifically the San Francisco. This is not the Honolulu due to maintenance costs. So let's go down here. And this is a really good dry dock picture. This is the best one I've seen of it out of the water. So this gives you an idea of how big that sonar dome is. And look at how it's attached. Like, there is a bolt next to bolt next to bolt. Big old 5-inch in diameter, maybe even 6-inch in diameter bolts. that hold this thing on. And there's just enough gap between each one of those to get a tool on it to torque it. And it's just one right after the other. So hundreds of bolts hold this thing on. This whole thing is gone. And it's not metal. It's made out of a special material. And apparently whenever it cracked, it shattered like an eggshell. It just went all over the place. But here you can clearly see the wow, this is the wide aperture array. Oh, this is the new one. They got it covered up. This is this picture has been photoshopped. You can't even see the good part. Okay, which means we can't talk about it. It's fine. But there it is. You can see it. All of this underscores the possibility that it's not extremely possible that $50 million will just be the down payment towards the full repair. How much it will cost in the end and how long it will take to fix the submarine remains to be seen. That's a really good point. I think she's going to be in dry dock, at least 6 months, at least, and then maybe a full year. But as the piece points out, we'll see how long it is. And this is another story from the WarZone talking about the Connecticut. She's finally made it to Washington State. This was recently updated, so I bring it up here to your attention. USS Connecticut is now near its home port of Bremerton, nearly 3 months after hitting a seamount. So what an arduous end to what was already a very long Pacific deployment. These sailors, man, my hat's off to every one of these sailors for getting the ship back home, because that's not a fait accompli. We could have easily lost this ship in transit, and we didn't. And that's a large part to each one of these individuals, paying attention on watch and making sure the damage didn't get any worse. Because I would love to interview these guys and see what it was like. Like, what casualties did they incur after the collision that came about, even during the transit trip. I'm sure they're all exhausted. So yeah, hats off to them. But let's read a little bit about this piece about the USS Connecticut returning to Bremerton now. Credit to Mr. Joseph Therafthick, of course. Pictures together with online ship tracking data indicate the USS Navy's seriously damaged Seawolf-class attack submarine, USS Connecticut, has finally returned home to Washington State. The submarine left San Diego last week, where it had spent just a few days in port after making a hellish trek across the Pacific Ocean. I think that's my article here. Yeah, this is where I was interviewed by Tyler, and I talked about the details of this trip. I recommend you go to the WarZone and read it. I think it's really good, but I'm a little bit biased, Twitter user Drim Calban, who I followed him after this, posted pictures yesterday of what appears to be the Connecticut at Naval Magazine Indian Island as part of the naval base's Kitsap's Puget Sound in Washington. So she's getting ready to go into a very long maintenance availability period. It looks like, yeah, his public name is Public Records Sorcerer, which is pretty cool. But you can find him at Dr. I am Calban. All right, and here's another one. Warship Cam is another one you should follow here. Anyway, so an end to a very long deployment. They began this deployment months ago, and I believe they should have already been home, but because of this encounter with the seamount, they had to spend time in Guam 2 months, doing assessments and repairs what they could in Guam, go to San Diego after a very long transit, and then finally up to Bremerton. And the last update here, as of 3 p.m. yesterday, the U.S. Navy has now confirmed USS Connecticut is at Naval Magazine Island. The submarine remains in a safe and stable condition. Navy Commander Cindy Field, spokesperson for Commander Submarine Force, U.S. Pacific Fleet, told the WarZone in his statement. So again, my hat's off to him. Good job bringing her home and not losing anybody in the process. During this entire thing, some sailors were injured, but they were relatively minor injuries, and no one was killed, which is great news. So what do you guys think about this in the chat? Has anyone ever gone through a collision, whether it's on a ship or otherwise? Yeah, it's quite a harrowing experience. What do the crew do when she's in dry dock? That's a great question, because obviously when a ship's in dry dock, a lot of rates like sonar, we don't have a job. We're like, well, we can't use the sonar because it's in dry dock. Well, what we do rates that don't have a job is we train a lot every day in the classroom. If we're not in the classroom, we're in the practical trainer where we're pretending to be underway for 4 and 6 hours at a time, as if we were underway, even though we're not. So we keep up our skills. So it's all about training, test taking to verify that we're learning something and it's not wasting our time, going to the practical trainer and actually putting hands on knobs. And unfortunately, it's more of the other things that I don't like about the Navy, in that there's a lot more administration to do, a lot more paperwork. Everything needs to be documented. It seems like 2 and 3 times more than it would normally, because you're doing a lot more training than normal because you have the time to do more training. And anytime you have an opening in your schedule, the people above you, whether it's the sonar officer, the weapons officer, or the XO, sometimes the COB will get involved, even though I don't think he should. He'll be like, hey, why do you have an hour on Tuesday at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and you're not doing anything? What are you going to do in that hour? And I'll tell you what, if you don't come up with a good answer, the COB will fill it in for you. That means you're field day and you're cleaning. That's the last thing you do. If you're not training, if you're not standing watch, if you're not in the practical trainer, you're on your hands and knees with a bucket and a sponge and you're cleaning, not necessarily the boat because the boat's in dry dock, even though you do it when you can. They stick the crew on a barge next to the boat, like a 3-level berthing barge. Has all the offices on one level. It has the officers on the second level in their offices, and the top level is a bunch of berthing bunks. Yeah, you're cleaning that. Hands and knees. So that's it. Training, administration, and cleaning is what we do in dry dock. Great question. Yeah, stay away from dry dock if you can, your entire naval career. At some point you'll experience it, but try to put that off as far as you can go, I recommend. Panzer says, I was on the USS Theodore Roosevelt CVN 71 when you hit a whale. Did you guys really hit a whale? Oh my God. Well, I'm sure the whale did not fare very well from that experience. P-Pistol says, you survived a few car accidents. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that counts too. That certainly is a collision. Let's see. Dread Platoon said, so even if the crew sent to do anything TO, the boat will never really leave the boat. Yeah, yeah, if you're in the maintenance availability period, you still, as far as we go, as far as weapons department went, we still practiced as if we were underway. We couldn't get to the trainer every single day because other boats are using the same trainer we are, right? But whenever we could, and it was usually once a week, I think was our schedule, we would go to the trainer all day. We would do a morning session, afternoon session. So that's like, 8 to 10 hours roughly. Well, it's a 10-hour day with a drive. So a 10-hour day to do trainers all day. And that was a good day. We wanted to go to the trainers because it kept us away from the COB. Because if the COB saw you, he would put you to work. Yeah. I have fond memories of that. I didn't like it at the time, but thinking back on it now, yeah, it's pretty funny. All right. Well, that's it for this segment. I'll read your comments in the chat. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. Hey, it's Aaron from Subbrief. I hope you liked the video. Make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. Also, check out our playlist. We have Naval News playlist. We have Subbrief lecture playlists, which are in-depth analysis into different classes of submarines. And yes, even warships now. We're expanding into warships because we've covered so many of the submarines. I also have a second channel. If you're looking for the gameplay video that used to be a big part of the Subbrief YouTube channel, head on over to OnlySubs. That's right. OnlySubs, a little tongue-in-cheek YouTube channel that I've created to put all the gameplay content that you guys love. This is where we just sit back, have fun, do some live stream video games for a couple hours, a few times a week, and we put the VODs over here on OnlySubs on the YouTube channel. All right, click like and subscribe over here and have a good time. Leave a comment down below and I'll be sure and read it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching my video, everybody. Bye.